Most people think they're in control of their lives. They're not. And the scary part is this: the things controlling you don't look dangerous, they look normal, comfortable, reasonable. That's why they work. Everyday small mental traps shape your decisions, drain your focus, and quietly decide the direction of your life. While you believe you're choosing freely, today we're exposing those traps. Not to scare you, but to give you leverage. Because once you can see them, they lose their power. Most people never realize this, but mental traps don't announce themselves. They feel like common sense. They feel like just the way things are. There are four of them running most lives. The first trap is reactive living. Most people don't decide their day, they respond to it. Notifications decide when they think. Other people decide what matters. Urgency replaces intention. Here's where the real damage happens. A reactive mind never goes deep enough to build anything meaningful. High performers around the world train the opposite habit. Athletes, strategists, entrepreneurs, they create decision windows. Time blocks where nothing interrupts them. Not because they're special, but because they protect their attention. If you don't decide what deserves your focus, something else will. And that something rarely cares about your future. The fix is simple, not easy. Start your day with one pre-decided action, one anchor habit, the habit that gives your whole day direction and momentum. No negotiation, no checking first, action before reaction. The second trap is false certainty. This one feels safe. You tell yourself stories like, "That's just how I am. I already know this. It won't work for me." And without realizing it, you stop learning. Here's the uncomfortable twist. The moment you believe you've figured life out, growth ends. Disciplined cultures never assume mastery. Japanese craftsmanship is built on shokunin, the belief that refinement never stops. Even masters train fundamentals daily. Most people screw this up by confusing familiarity with understanding. A practical shift. When you hear something you disagree with, don't reject it immediately. Ask one question instead. What would make this true? That single question reopens your mind and weakens this trap. If one of these already sounds familiar, pause for a second. You don't need to judge it, just notice it. Awareness is where control begins. The third trap is comfort-based decision-making. Most people don't choose what's best for them. They choose what feels easiest right now. They delay hard conversations. They avoid difficult work. They trade long-term respect for short-term relief. This is the part nobody talks about. Comfort feels like kindness, but it slowly erodes self-trust. High performers operate on a different rule. They don't ask, "What feels good?" They ask, "What earns future respect?" Stoic philosophy emphasized this deeply. Not denying comfort, but not letting it lead. A simple way to train out of this trap. Once a day, deliberately choose the slightly harder option. Send the message you're avoiding. Finish the task you keep postponing. Small acts of resistance compound into strength. Now, the fourth and most dangerous trap: identity outsourcing. Most people let their environment define who they are. Their job title, their social circle, other people's expectations. They adapt instead of choosing. Here's where the real damage happens. If you don't define yourself, life will assign you a role, and it's rarely the one you want. High performers anchor identity internally, not ego, clarity. They know who they are becoming, even when circumstances change. You don't need a grand identity statement. You need one sentence. I am someone who shows up even when it's uncomfortable. I am someone who controls their attention. I am someone who finishes what they start. Then you prove it daily with action. No announcement, no validation. This is where everything shifts. You're not trapped because you're weak. You're trapped because these systems were invisible. Once you see them, you stop blaming yourself and start adjusting behavior. And something subtle but powerful happens. Decisions get clearer. Distractions lose pull. You stop feeling pushed around by life. People respond differently to you, not because you changed your personality, but because you stopped leaking control. This is what mental freedom actually looks like. Not constant happiness, not motivation, but clarity. If you refuse to let invisible traps run your life, then subscribe, stay gritty,